good afternoon, Amanda Whitten. Thank you so much for joining me today for our first inaugural installation of the Smittcamp Family Fireside Chat discussion. Just a chance for us to connect with alums of the honors program and find out what you're doing and what you've learned since graduating. So welcome, Amanda. So excited to have you this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's start with just some basic background. Can you share with us your hometown, where you went to high school, and why you chose the Honors College?
Sure. I grew up in Bakersfield. My family is we're all Central Valley. My mom grew up in Clovis and then Layton, my dad in Lemoore. And we were down in Bakersfield for my dad's job. So that's where I was. My grandpa was a lifelong Fresno State Bulldogs fan. So he was very excited about the idea of me coming to Fresno for college. I was less so just because I was a typical Valley kid that wanted to get out of the Valley, or so I thought. And so I applied to a bunch of colleges and got in a bunch of places and really was not super excited about Fresno State until I visited the campus. And I fell in love with the campus, and I came for an honors information day and just kind of fell in love with the program that they were building. I was the second year, so it was still very new. And there was just sort of one of those gut feelings that it just felt right. Like I could feel like this was the place I was supposed to be. And so, yeah, that's how I landed in Fresno at Fresno State. And I can't imagine imagine having done it any other way at this point.
Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about your college experience. Can you share with us what your favorite memory is of your time at Fresno State?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I think I loved going to football games at Fresno State. There's nothing like a Fresno State football game. I also just loved in the Honors College. I loved when we started doing the retreats. I thought that was a lot of fun, a way to kind of get away and connect with people in the Honors College. But mostly it was just the little moments of living in the dorms. I was one of the people that lived in the dorms all 4 years. And there's just no better way to form really close friendships than by living with the people that you're going to class with. And we would just have such random good conversations in the evening or going to the meals with each other. And I just have so many happy memories of living in the dorms.
Yeah, and I think that with Fresno State being a commuter campus and that the Honors College provided not only the cohort that you attend honors courses with throughout your 4 years, but then also having that scholarship to help fund the, living on campus and giving you that real college experience where you form those relationships. Yeah, I think that's invaluable.
I think that was so ingenious that what I love about the Honors College was that it created sort of the small liberal arts college, but on a big college campus. And by having us on campus, like you're saying, with it being a commuter campus, it really did make us this smaller group within the larger community.
Yeah. And so with that said, as you look back on your experience, is there anything you would have done differently?
I think I probably would have taken more classes outside of my major just so I could have seen a little bit more what was out there. I was sort of one of the rare students that came in. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I knew exactly what I wanted to major in. And so I never really veered outside of that. And now being an adult, there's so many things that I'm interested in that I think, I should have taken more, history classes, or I should have taken that winemaking class, or, the different things that I know Fresno State offers. So that's always my advice to college students, is just take classes that just sound interesting to you, because you never know what you're going to land on that's going to spark your interest.
Yeah. And I have similar sentiments where I feel like when you're a driven individual and you have goals, oftentimes we're very focused on achieving those goals, those milestones, based on the timeline that we perceive that they should be met, without really taking the time to enjoy the journey. So yeah, I think that that's probably really good advice for our students, is to, even if it does require maybe an extra semester, but to just enjoy yourself. And because it's hard to go back once you have a mortgage and a job and
right.
All adult responsibilities. Whereas, especially with the scholarship that the Honors College provides, even if it does end up, extending a bit longer, it's such a enriching experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned, knowing your major right when you started. So tell us a little bit about your major and your path since college.
Sure. So I have known since I was 7 years old that I wanted to be a lawyer. And I didn't know any lawyers growing up. I just watched a lot of Matlock on TV. And so I knew, and I thought I wanted to be a criminal defense attorney. And so I was a double major in political science and criminology, both because I thought those made sense for my career path, but also they did and still do interest me. So I don't have any regrets in terms of those majors. I loved the classes that I took within my majors. I did go to law school after I graduated from Fresno State. I went to UC Davis School of Law, and I graduated in 2007. While I was in law school, I did some internships in criminal defense work and found out that really wasn't actually the avenue for me. And so I landed where I am now. I do plaintiffs' employment law work. So I represent workers in discrimination and harassment lawsuits. And that's what I've been doing for 14 years now, and I absolutely love it.
So when you talk about criminal defense, just really, you found that wasn't for you. Was that like an immediate, like, knew that it wasn't going to fit, or did it take a few times? Kind of share what that process is like, because for a lot of students, figuring out what we want to do can be, a bit, So if you can just share your path and your experiences, I think that might be insightful for some of the listeners.
Yeah, so I did an externship in law school, and law school is much like college, that they, urge you to do internships, and I would urge everybody in both college and graduate school to do internships in all kinds of different fields. And so I did one at actually the Federal Defender's Office here in Fresno. I came back for a semester to Fresno, and the people that I worked with there were amazing. I loved the people that I worked with, but just the cases are so difficult and emotionally draining. I was representing a young man that was about my age at the time. I was in my early 20s, and he was up on a murder charge. He had already been in prison, and he had murdered a fellow inmate, and he had mental challenges. He was mentally retarded. And so our entire task for that semester was proving that he was mentally retarded so that the death penalty would be taken off the table. And it was draining. And part of my job is sort of being the intern in the office was our client had 1 hour of phone privileges every day and then a half-day visit every week. And so I would talk to this young man on the phone every single day for an hour. I would go visit him every Friday morning. And it was really hard. I got attached to him. I felt invested in him. And I was just really sad that the ultimate outcome was he didn't get the death penalty, but he's in prison for the rest of his life. And, that combined with a lot of cases that there's just some really cringeworthy stuff that you have to deal with in criminal law. And I have all the respect in the world for people who do that work. But I just realized that it wasn't something that I could do and not take home every night. So I wanted something with maybe a little bit lower stakes.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. And yeah, there's definitely a difference between our perception of what's involved with a profession versus, actually doing it day in and day out. So you're right, internships are a great opportunity to get exposure to that and really do a self-check in terms of, is this what I want to do for the next 20, 30 years, or however long, you foresee yourself being in that particular career. And I say being in that particular career because I think for a lot of people, it kind of ebbs and flows where, one part of your career may start out in one area, then you may get into consulting or some ancillary thing where you're still using that knowledge base. And so that's an appreciation I have now too, is that, I know when I started college, it was kind of, I felt a lot of pressure to make a decision that would need to last my entire career up until retirement. And it was actually through the Honors College where I was able to attend events with different successful alumni and hearing them talk about, they'll be very successful individuals in their 50s and talking about how they're still trying to figure out what they want to be when they grow up. And that gave me a bit of relief to feel like, okay, I don't have to make a lifelong decision now, and to enjoy that journey. So that's really interesting to hear about. So you obviously use your major today, with the law degree, and then criminology. Now that aspect, is that kind of in the employment law, or how, I guess the critical thinking piece, how do you connect that?
Yeah, I don't use my majors per se in what I guess poli-sci, a good understanding of government and the system. criminology actually helped me more than I would have thought in this field, just because, we were required to take criminal procedure classes, which are the closest thing you're going to have at Fresno State to law classes, I think. And our class was actually taught by a lawyer, and taught in much the same way that a lot of my law classes were taught. So in that way, criminology prepared me for law school well. And it's also just sort of fun to have that amount of knowledge about the criminal justice system. I'm still a huge true crime fan and that sort of thing. But yeah, I think that both majors prepared me critical thinking wise, just to really look at things from every angle.
Great. So, how has the pandemic impacted your industry?
So it's been, it's made us more busy in some ways and less busy in others. So in the less busy side, courts were closed a lot last year. And then once they opened up, they had to prioritize. And so criminal matters, family law matters, those took precedence. What I do, which is civil litigation, is very low priority for courts right now, understandably so. And so a lot of our cases were delayed that, normally a client would get a trial date that was somewhere between 1 to 2 years from when we file a case. And now we're looking at 3 to 5 years. And so that's a real delay that's been hard to explain to clients and hard to, quite frankly, plan our business around, because we're contingency fee only. And so we only make money when cases are settling, and cases only settle when they're going to trial. So it was a little bit of a shift. But we've managed, and I think that everybody has sort of gotten back to trying to get cases resolved, even if things aren't on the horizon. But the other way that it picked up is that I don't know that there's been a time in my career, at least, that workers' rights have been a more important topic of conversation. And so I really early on just kind of decided to embrace that and take on my role as being able to be a resource to people who had questions about their rights in the workplace. There were a lot of parents early in the pandemic that didn't know what to do with kids having their schools closed. And so I was helping a lot of people on those issues. And so it just really helped sort of to remind me that my job is not just to move the lawsuit that I take, but also just to help people understand their rights and prepare them so that one day if they do need my help, they know where to find me.
Great. So with the additional time to go to trial, are you finding that there's more arbitration and mediation that is happening, or how is that timeline being impacted, and the overall flow, I guess?
Yeah, I would say at first, everything kind of felt like it came to a halt. And then I think everybody figured out that we still need to get these cases resolved. Employers don't want a case sitting around for years and years unresolved. They want to get those things done too. And so I think just, the lawyers on both sides have sort of worked together to say, okay, we're not going to worry so much about the fact that there isn't a trial date. We're going to do our best to move this case forward and resolve it just the way we would normally. 98% of cases have always settled outside of court. So I think everybody just sort of acknowledged that and instead of talking all the time about the threat of trial, we just said, well, is this one that we're going to have to wait 2 or 3 years to try, or are we going to try to find a resolution for everybody right now? So in some ways, it's actually been good to get people to the table sooner.
That's interesting. All right. So Amanda, let's talk a little bit about what you like to do in your free time.
Well, in the times before, as we call them now, I love traveling. I've been all over the world and have really enjoyed traveling. Obviously, that's not something that's happening right now. I'm a big reader. I love reading. And then during quarantine, I started knitting. I learned to sew. And so I've been doing a lot of more kind of crafty stuff that I never really thought was, in my wheelhouse. So I think mostly I've just learned that I like learning new things. And so reading and exploring, taking Zoom classes to learn new things has been my hobby as of late.
So what do you take the Zoom classes through?
Different, so there's a lot of craft stores that will offer classes. And then there's, other, Yaymaker is a good site if you're just looking for something that's like people think like the paint night type classes or a baking class. And there's so much out there. And there were a lot of people that in normal times would teach in person that were looking for a way to pivot. And so in some ways it sort of opened up the world. Like I've taken a lot of classes through a yarn store that's up in Northern California. I've taken a lot of classes through a craft store in New York. And, and before the pandemic, I wouldn't have ever had that opportunity. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. So when you think about I think all of us have had our lives changed by the pandemic, because the services that we used pre-pandemic weren't available for a time period. And so like in your case where, traveled pre-pandemic and now filling your time with, craft related classes and learnings and activities. So what do you see as being, and maybe even beyond that, but what do you see as being the silver lining in, the pandemic and what globally we experienced?
Yeah, I think that it taught us all to slow down a little bit. I think, my life was so hectic before. I traveled a lot for work and I was just always on the go. And it's been really nice just to kind of have a pause. I mean, obviously it's been the hardest kind of pause we could have, but I think that, so for my law firm, we've decided that we're going to go back on a hybrid schedule. So we're going to work at the office a couple days a week, work at home a few days a week. And we're just not going to subscribe anymore to that idea that you have to be in the office from 8 to 6 or, some set hours. But work on a model more of like, we're going to get our jobs done and we're going to enjoy life and what we like to do. And so I think that's maybe a realization I wouldn't necessarily have had as quickly without the pandemic showing me that I can work easily from home. Just slowing down and just kind of enjoying things a little bit more.
That's great. And then do you have your next vacation planned?
I don't. I'm still a little bit hesitant to get back out there just yet. I know a lot of my friends have been doing some of the national parks and that's sort of attracting me. So I think I might try to plan a little road trip on my own just to see some of the national parks that I haven't seen before. The funny thing, I've done a ton of traveling internationally on my own, but most of my domestic travel has just been for work. And so it'd be fun to kind of see some parts of the country I haven't explored as much before.
Got it. So what was your favorite international trip?
Oh my gosh. Probably I went to Peru a couple summers ago to hike the Machu Picchu trail, and I went with a group of friends. So most of my travel I've done alone, and this trip, a group of my friends from kind of all different phases of my life came and formed this group to do it. There's a group of, I think there was 8 of us, and it was a 4-day hike, and it was just absolutely magical and really neat to connect with some people and see some of my friends from different parts of my life connecting with each other. And it was hard. It was a really physically hard trip, but it was so rewarding and such history there.
I understand that you spoke at an honors college colloquium about traveling. Can you share with us, and doing it solo, can you share with us a little bit about what you shared with those students when you spoke with them?
Yeah, it's funny. So I gave that talk, I think it was like 2 weeks before the world shut down. And like the whole theme of my talk was get out there, go see the world. And then the world promptly closed. So I think that was my takeaway though. It's just to not be afraid of going it alone. I spent a long time wanting to travel, but feeling like I couldn't because I didn't have a partner. And then when I went out there and just decided to go and do it myself, it turned out to be really rewarding and empowering. And now I almost say sometimes that I prefer traveling alone just because you don't have to worry about anybody else or take anybody else into account. So, but it's just, to erase the hesitation of not doing things because you're not doing them in the traditional way, I think is what I've learned from traveling. And there's just so much out there to see, and the world is so much bigger than we think. And I think that traveling just expands your worldview, that we can sit here and talk about policies or ideas or conflicts in the world, but until you've really seen how somebody lives in another part of the world, your opinions are sort of based on not much. So it's been really informative in that way.
That's great. As you shared, that perspective of getting out there and doing it, it reminds me of years ago, reading about, because happiness is really a choice, right? So there's lots of different articles about how to choose that and, train your brain to, be happy. And one of the things that, I remember reading years ago was just related to, it's easy for us to create excuses, like, oh, I'll do this when XYZ happens. And, but really you're just creating roadblocks for yourself. So it sounds like in your own experience, you made a choice to, not be dependent on traveling with someone else and, gaining probably a lot of self-knowledge as well, yes. Right? And and yeah, and confidence and knowing that, you're fully capable of getting out there and yeah, ultimately enjoying it. So I'm sure a lot of self-reflection and appreciation came from that experience.
Yeah.
That's really great. Well, Amanda, is there anything else that you would like to cover before I get into some rapid fire questions?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Well, so a few questions for you, and you can make these as long or short as you would like, but would love to hear related to your college days. What was your favorite course?
Communications with Kathy Adams.
And who was your favorite professor?
David Provost in the political science department.
And favorite place to eat on campus or near campus, and what did you order?
There used to be a TCBY frozen yogurt shop in the USU, and I would have white chocolate mousse frozen yogurt. It was like my go-to. It was a little bit of an addiction in college. I don't think I've had it since. What's that?
What topping?
No toppings. I just like the yogurt. Yeah. And probably, I don't know if the toppings were extra, but I was a broke college student, so probably conserving. Yeah. You got those little dollars or what were those like bucks that we would get as part of our meal plan that you could spend. And so I was always budgeting those out.
For your frozen yogurt addiction.
Right.
That's excellent. All right, let's talk about present day. What is something that your classmates would be surprised to hear you're doing now?
Probably running marathons. I was not athletic in any way at all back in college, and I got very into fitness in my later years.
And it was marathons plural. So how many marathons have you run?
I run 54 marathons.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is definitely plural. So yeah, congratulations. So where have you run them at? Have they all been domestic, or is that part of your international travels as well?
I haven't done a lot of international, but I did do the original marathon in Athens, Greece. That was a pretty cool experience.
That would be. All right. What are you completely bored of right now?
Ugh. My house, I guess. I'm so ready to be outside my house a little bit more.
Are you wanting to remodel?
Yeah, right. Isn't that what everybody's thinking? I am. Like, I've been doing lots of little projects around my house, so that's been kind of fun. But there's like shortages. I was trying to get my fence fixed, and there's like a wood shortage in the US now because everybody's doing stuff like this.
Right. Yeah, and the sawmills were shut down for a time period. So yeah, it's a price premium as well. And so what's the most exciting thing in your life right now?
Just, I guess, the return to normal a little bit. As dorky as it sounds, my book clubs are now going to meet in person again. I met with one of my book clubs last week in person, and it was so fun to see everybody not on Zoom. So I think just kind of that gradual return to normal has been really fun. And playing with my 4-year-old niece, who I didn't get to see a whole lot during COVID.
Is she local?
She is, yes.
Oh, that'll be fun. Yeah. And then what book are you reading in your book club right now?
What did we even read? I don't remember what we just read for book club. Right now, I'm reading, what am I reading right now? It's called The Warmth of Other Suns. It's by Isabel Wilkerson. She's known, right now she has a book out called Cast that everybody's been talking about. And so I went back and read her older book. But I read a little bit of everything. I think we read a thriller suspense novel last week for book club.
And so is there a certain book that you've reread many times and really just is a good foundation for you personally?
Yeah, there's a few. The one that comes to mind the most, either To Kill a Mockingbird is like my obvious favorite, being a lawyer. Truth and Beauty is a memoir by Ann Patchett. That's probably the one that I've read over and over again the most. It's just a memoir of friendship, and it's just a really beautifully written book.
Awesome. And what's one piece of advice you'd give to college students?
Just try to be present. Try to enjoy every moment and not be so fixated on the next step. I think we all have the tendency to do that of what's next. Like I feel like sometimes in college, I was just so worried about what was going to look good to a law school or what was going to be my next step or that I don't know that I really soaked in how great it was. And then when you reflect back, you're like, gosh, that was so fun. So many times to hang out with friends and really just enjoy life. Like the little things, like watching friends on Thursday nights in the dorms or things like that. Just really try to be present and enjoy those moments.
Yeah, that's great advice. Well, Amanda, that concludes my questions. So thank you so much for joining us for, again, our inaugural Smittcamp Fireside Chat, and where we, dive into the lives of some of our alumni. And I do appreciate that, one of the goals of the Honors College is to, bring or retain smart individuals in the local economy. And so do appreciate that, even though you weren't raised in Fresno, having gone to Fresno State, you decided to stay local and, provide important service and knowledge base to our people in our community. So do appreciate that and wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Thanks. I do love that about the Honors College, that the focus is to, I think that people get their ideas in college about where they want to spend their lives. And I became really invested and attached to this community when I was in college. And so it was intentional that I came back, and I have zero regrets about that. And so I think that the Honors College is important for that, for helping high school kids see that the Central Valley is not as uncool as they think it is, and to really get deeper into the community here.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great program for us to really understand the broader community. So, all right. Well, thanks again. And, tune in for next time. And Amanda, I hope that, in the future, you'll give us an update as well. So thank you.